Is CM Punk not a needle mover? What's with these low AEW Collision ticket sales? Let's talk about that in today's Wrestling Ramble. AEW Collision, the debut episode is coming up. It is going to happen on the 17th of this month. And after weeks and weeks, we had Tony Khan come out on Dynamite. 1 week announced Collision, another week announced something else, I forget what it was. And then the next week he announced that it would be CM Punk. And it'd be in the United Center, it'd be in Chicago. Was the second week that it would be in Chicago, then the third week it'd be Punk? I forget how that all played out. Nonetheless, CM Punk will be there for the debut episode of AEW Collision on Saturday, June 17th. This is a big deal for the company. They're going to have a second show, and I think it's a big deal for the fans of AEW and just fans of professional wrestling in general that are interested in tuning into AEW, because this is going to show maybe a different side of AEW programming. You're going to have Dynamite with the Elite, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and that crew, and then Collision you're going to have Punk and FTR and a few other people, Miro, Andrade, Samoa Joe. There might be a distinct way of doing that show. There might be differences. I think there's going to be differences, but what I'm getting at is that I think if you are a fan of the PWG style, what the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega maybe like to do, all the high-flying stuff, all the crazy spots, spot after spot, Dynamite might be for you. But if you want to see what you feel like professional wrestling used to be, maybe Collision might be for you. And whichever one you want to pick, that's fine. It's your personal preference. Who cares? It's what you like to see, so that's what you're going to tune into. But I think it's nice in the sense that it gives us an option, something that's different. Now, what I don't like about Collision, before we get into all the Punk news, is that we have an obvious feud here. You've heard about it. You know what's going on. CM Punk and the Elite, they got into a fight backstage at All Out. They all got suspended. They all got stripped of their titles. The Elite come back. Punk's still nowhere to be seen. Now Punk's coming back, but he's going to be on a totally separate show. And we've heard reports that they're trying to keep them separate. They're going to split the roster to some degree to keep these people away from one another. It's crazy to me that you have one of the biggest feuds possibly in professional wrestling today, at the very least in AEW history. Punk versus the Elite, Punk and FTR versus the Elite, however you want to chalk it up, that would be one of the biggest feuds. Why? Because it's already started and fans know it's real. They can make a distinction what's a work and what's a shoot to some degree, but now you're going to have Punk going out there and blurring the lines when he does a promo on the Bucks or Kenny Omega. He's going to bring up things that happen in real life, like the fight, but he might sprinkle in a little bit to make you second guess and go, wait a minute, is this a storyline or is this real? And that's the kind of stories you want these days. It's not often in professional wrestling where you have something that fans think is real, fans know is real. That's very hard to come by. It's just not something you get a second chance at. What happened, happened. Regardless of how you feel, if you're on Team Punk or Team Elite, who cares? If you're Tony Khan, you should be on Team Money, Team Program, Team Viewership. And if you're on that side of things, you should want to put this group together and say, work out your differences, have an angle, do it for however long you want to do it or however long I want you to do it, and let's make a ton of money. You could break $1 million every week probably on Dynamite with this feud. With CM Punk coming back to Dynamite and having him go against the Elite, unfortunately, we're in a situation where it seems like Warner Brothers Discovery wants a new television show, wants a Saturday night show, and it just so happened to work out that Punk's about to come back, and there's people that have issues on the roster with one another, like Andrade and Sammy Guevara, so let's keep them separate. Maybe FTR and the Bucks have issues, so let's keep them separate. CM Punk and the Elite have issues, let's keep them separate. Let's put all those guys on the Saturday show and keep these guys on Dynamite. Maybe that's just how it turned out, but if I'm the AEW president, if I'm Tony Khan, if I'm booking things, the first thing I'm going to do, the first course of action I will take is to make sure this feud happens. If you want to come back and have CM Punk have a quick match with somebody for the debut of Collision, whatever. But the first major program for CM Punk should be with the Elite. It's not going to happen, and that's a travesty. Not to go off on too much of a tangent, I just wanted to cover that and get that out. So let's get into the CM Punk news. So as mentioned, as you know, CM Punk is going to be there for the debut episode of Collision, and back on the 5th, it was said that there is a dream match being discussed for CM Punk. Ringside News writes, during Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer stated that he heard a very interesting note about CM Punk's possible future in AEW. He said said that there was talk of having CM Punk versus Jay White in a singles feud. Jay White showed up in AEW after his NJPW deal expired. There were some rumors that WWE might be interested, but Jay White ended up with Tony Khan's company instead. Now, he might be looking at a big money feud in his immediate future. CM Punk was supposed to have a rivalry with Chris Jericho, but that didn't seem to pan out as his first feud. Now, the biggest rumor is that CM Punk will reignite an old feud with Samoa Joe instead. Then it was reported on June 6th that Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that so far there have been no announcements about Collision airing in the UK or Canada. This could pose a problem for them coming up. AEW booked a few Collision shows for Canada, and it would be an interesting thing if Canadian fans can't watch the show. Also, the company is looking to spread into the UK market, but their Saturday show isn't a part of the deal. They got a new show and no clearances in 2 of their key markets, Dave Meltzer noted. Obviously, this is something that Tony Khan's company might need to fix. And then it was said, same day, June 6th, once again, Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer Radio said, and Punk has been moving tickets in Chicago, but not in other places, not in Toronto, which is not a good sign because Toronto is one of the greatest markets in North America. They sold out Forbidden Door in a snap of the fingers, and then for the Collision show, there's still under 2,000 tickets in the Scotiabank Arena in, Regina. I was told ahead of time that, Regina and Saskatoon, which is Saskatoon's actually Dynamite, that they were going to be very, very tough because in the summer people in Saskatchewan, because they don't get good weather very much. When they do get good weather, they head out of town and go to the lake and things like that, and it's basically difficult. They've really picked a bad time to go to Saskatchewan, and also, aside from Toronto and Winnipeg, they haven't really, some of their Canadian stuff, they're not as hot. In Winnipeg, obviously, because they have Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega from Winnipeg, and Edmonton will do very well. It's not through the roof or anything. It's about 5,000 tickets sold, but they'll sell more late. I think Edmonton will do well. Calgary, I've had people in Calgary tell me that one's a little bit struggling for the Saturday night, but I think, with the Owen Hart tournament, I think they should do okay. But Hamilton and Regina are going to be very, very tough. There are like 700 tickets for the Collision in Hamilton, and I think also part of it is that, in Canada, they only get Dynamite on television, they don't get Rampage. And there's been no announcement of Collision, and there's been no announcements of Collision for the UK either. People keep asking me, still haven't heard anything on that. I wanted to mention this real quickly. Kenta replied to a tweet that had a video of CM Punk doing an interview, and he was asked where he got the GTS from, and Punk said he stole it from Kenta. Kenta said, I don't really care who's the original G2S. There is only one truth. If you want me to have match against Punk, give me correct amount of money. Other than that, I don't need to have this match. Seriously. And then going on for plans for Punk, says here in the latest edition of the SRS Backstage Report, Sean Ross Sapp said behind Fightful's paywall that AEW has some ideas in place for CM Punk's AEW return. Fans might even see a new stable. The outlet shared some potential matchups and opponents for CM Punk's first program in AEW after his highly anticipated return to the promotion on the premiere episode of AEW Collision. Sapp revealed that one idea being considered is for Punk to team up for a faction with FTR to face Bullet Club Gold, as Punk has developed a liking for both Jay White and Juice Robinson. Additionally, Sapp confirmed previous reports of strong suggestions for CM Punk to work with Chris Jericho and Samoa Joe. There are obviously a few ideas on the table. And then once again from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful on June 7th, it was said, things have just cooled off, and AEW has definitely taken measures. As much talent do have issues with Punk, they are making sure to keep those separated, so to speak. And then most recently, for June 7th, the day that I'm recording this, we have an updated AEW roster photo for CM Punk that has been posted on the official website. So what do you think of all this? What do you think of the plans that have been reported for Punk, whether it be Chris Jericho, Samoa Joe, or a feud with the Bullet Club, or he teams up with FTR? What do you think about all that? And how do you feel about the supposedly low Collision ticket sales? Is that Punk's fault, or is it AEW's fault? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. That's all I've got. I'll see y'all later.